Hey everybody, it's Mr. Haskell, and I'm back with more things that you should know by being alive. This is kind of like a historical place kind of thing, somewhere that if you have a chance, it's worth an exploration of. I want to talk about Cahokia Mounds. It's a massive Native American city just on the east side of the Mississippi River. I live about 45 miles north of it. It's right across the river from St. Louis. So Cahokia Mounds is, what is it? Cahokia Mounds is the site of the largest pre-Columbian city north of Mexico. And there's a lot of Americans who've never even heard of it. It's located near Collinsville, Illinois today. And at the time, it was the center of Mississippian culture that thrived about 1,000 years ago. At its height, which was around the year 1050 to 1200 B or CE or AD, Cahokia had a population of about, we estimate, between 15 and 20,000 people. So that would be about the size of London at the same time. Cahokia was a planned city. It had neighborhoods and plazas and religious centers and these massive earthen mounds. It had a trade network that stretched across North America, all the way up into the Great Lakes and well into the Gulf of Mexico. This wasn't just like a village in the woods. Cahokia was a thriving civilization. And today, there's more than 70 mounds that exist at the site. We believe there to have been at least 120 at one time. The largest of which is here in the photograph above me here, is Monk's Mound. It's about 100 feet tall, about 1,000 feet long, and it covers a footprint of about 14 acres. It's bigger than the base of the Great Pyramid of Giza. You're looking for scale, right? Monk's Mound wasn't a burial site. It was likely the base of a temple or the residence of the ruling elite. Think of Cahokia's version of a palace or a ziggurat, from Mesopotamian culture. Surrounding Monk's Mound were ceremonial plazas, smaller platform mounds, and even a wood henge, which was a massive circle of wooden posts aligned with solar events, and coincide with events like, the spring and fall equinoxes. So this wasn't just architecture for Woodhenge, it was astronomy. And then to add on to this, the complex was about religion and political power. All these things are just woven together. So as far as what we can gather, archaeologists and anthropologists can gather for the life and the culture of the area, the Cahokians were largely farmers and builders and traders. They grew things like corn and squash and beans, which were the staples of North American agriculture, the Three Sisters. I guess corn would have been maize if you wanted to be super technical. They used river systems for transportation, the Mississippi, but others in the area as well. They used these rivers for long-distance trade. Artifacts from Cahokia include copper from the Great Lakes region, shells from the Gulf Coast, and even obsidian that could be found in the Rockies. But it just wasn't also a peaceful trading hub. There's evidence of elite classes, organized labor, and even the possibility for ritual human sacrifice. At mound number 72, archaeologists found over 250 burials. Some of them were in rather elaborate graves, others were likely victims of sacrifice. This shows that the society had a complex set of beliefs about life and death and social hierarchy. In Cahokia would have had politics, it had religion, it had inequality. It was a city, but it was not really, I guess it was really like any other ancient urban civilization, with what makes up their particular society. So what happened to Cahokia, right? From our best evidence, around the year 1350 AD CE, Cahokia is in decline. By 1400, it's largely abandoned, about 100 years before Columbus. So what happens? Well, unfortunately, we don't have a single answer, but archaeologists and historians are able to glean from the evidence a few possibilities. First, environmental strain, deforestation, overhunting, soil exhaustion. Climate change. There was the little ice age that took place may have disrupted the growing season and damaged the ability to have sustainable crops and harvests. Social unrest. There may have been internal conflict or religious upheaval. And then you could add to that, flooding or natural disasters. This often occurs on sites near the Mississippi and the Illinois rivers, and so it wouldn't be unusual. It could be a combination of all four and many other factors that haven't been identified. But here's what didn't cause the fall. I can give you this: European contact. Cahokia had already risen and fallen before Columbus ever crossed the Atlantic. Now I know, the Vikings in Newfoundland and Labrador around the year 1000 and such, the Irish off the coast of Newfoundland, Labrador, Nova Scotia around 800. But, we know that conquistadors, for example, wouldn't have come into contact with Cahokians. But when it did, it did rise, it did fall, the disappearance did leave behind the mounds, the myths, the mysteries. It may have even extended on the western side of the Mississippi River. St. Louis, for a time, was known as Mound City. Large mounds were found over on the west side as well, and of course, many of those were cleared out, removed, and whatever for the construction of the river port city on the Mississippi. So we can say that Cahokia, it is a forgotten city. But it does tell us that North America had complex, thriving civilizations long before European colonization. There's a wonderful visitor center there, and they also have festival days in the summertime, Native American Heritage Days. One of the fun games you can play there is called Chunky. Along the interstate system in the local area, they have an artifact known as the Birdman that's been attached to the overpasses that's become a symbol of the Cahokia civilization in our area. And it's on the UNESCO World Heritage Site list. It's really worth a visit if you're looking for something that's just kind of off the beaten path and what people don't necessarily associate for the history of the United States, because it predates the United States. But it gives us a great look into some Native American history, civilizations, and culture. So if you learned something today, I hope you did. Please like this, share it, follow me, and I'll do more things that you should know by being alive. If you're ever near St. Louis, go see the mounds. History lives, basically in my backyard, and I sure wouldn't mind if you guys would come and visit. Thanks for watching.